Terrence Crosby, a firefighter from Dublin, came to Boston to be part of the St. Patrick's Day parade, but now faces serious rape charges and is on trial on court TV. His accuser described a horrifying night in a hotel when she says she was attacked by a man after having consensual relations with another man who was sleeping in the bed next to her. The scientific evidence is not conclusive, and Crosby says he did not do it, and he took the stand in his own defense to tell his story. Well, now all the evidence is in and the arguments have been made, and it's time to hear from the jury. Meanwhile, Kada Scott, a vibrant young woman from Philadelphia, left work early. She had been communicating with someone via text message, then she disappeared. There was a frantic search that led to an anonymous tip. Then they found Kada. They arrested a man named Keon King, known well by the DA's office, who had previously dismissed charges against him for attacking another woman. Tonight, new developments as we learn how Kada was killed. But first, the death of Celeste Rivas has sparked a wave of heartbreak and questions surrounding her connection to rising music star David. David, an adult. Celeste, just 14 years old, found dead in the trunk of a Tesla. The owner of the Tesla, David. Tonight, still no arrests in this homicide case, but we have new information connected to the car and the last known person to drive that Tesla. What happened to Celeste, and when will someone be held accountable? I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us here on Closing Arguments. It's a story that really has a lot of people wondering what's going on in the investigation, has people frustrated with the fact that no one's been held accountable yet. No one has been held accountable in this case, and it all begins with the internet music sensation David, okay? This guy came pretty much out of nowhere. He was a gamer on the internet, on YouTube, Twitch, doing his thing, then found out he can sing, I guess, and then somehow his career just exploded, absolutely exploded. So this guy was a star on the rise. Now, the victim here is a dead 14-year-old. Her name is Celeste. She's gone. Her life is over. This is serious. Like this is the murder of a child we're talking about. And the crime scene is a Tesla. That's where she was found. In the trunk of a Tesla. 14-year-old girl. Decomposing. In the trunk of a car somewhere in the Hollywood Hills. From the outside looking in, you'd think, okay, might be pretty easy to put the pieces together, but apparently it's not that easy to put the pieces together in this case. But they know whose car it is. It was David's, but the question is, who was driving the car? Who had access to the car? Who left the car abandoned on the side of the road? To me, that's an important question in all of this. It might not... That person may not be the killer, but that person may have some information that could lead you to the answer to what happened to this teenage girl. We've got a special guest joining us here at the top of the show on this story. Missing persons private investigator, search and rescue pilot, and ground search technician Steve Fisher is with us. He was also hired by the homeowner of the house where the singer David was living. Also joining us, host of the Outlier podcast and Pop Crime TV reporter Lauren Conlon. Great to have both of you here tonight. Steve, I want to begin with you because making a lot of news with all of this, involving a video apparently that you were able to get your hands on. Give us the backstory on the video, what you can tell us about the video, and what that video revealed to you and what you've done with the video.
So it's from the neighborhood. It's right down the street from the house that David was staying in that his manager leased, and it's a video of the Tesla being moved on the July 29th about midday, and it's the same day that they leave a group of them leave on a tour bus to begin the tour, the first day of the tour on the tour bus going to San Francisco. So the Tesla at that point is actually already in as dirty state as it is in the pictures that we obtained right when it was towed. So it looked like it had been sitting again for a while, and it looks like they just made one last move with it before they set out for this part of the tour.
Now, as you describe that, everyone at home is saying, well, who is they? Do we know who they is?
That's something that, right. Yeah, I know who was driving it on that last little move that it made to that parking spot there. But that's something that I'm not going to disclose yet. I think that would be stepping on LAPD's toes, which we don't want to do. We just want to make sure that some of these things are known and that that there's justice in this case, because that statement that LAPD came out with not too long ago was a little concerning. It made it seem like really culpability of concealment of a body might be the extent of the charges. So, and I just want to get a clearer picture here. The house where this would there be a reason for the car to not be at the house? Like, were they abandoning the house and they were never going to return to the house? Do we know anything about information like that? I don't think that was the plan, because they left a lot of stuff behind the house. They did, after this all went down, they moved some of it out, but even then they left a ton behind. So I think it was just, maybe that psychological factor of just a little distance gets it a little, further away from, from the house. I think it was not a permanent solution, obviously, but I think that they did have a plan down the road. I think the towing really upended that plan. Absolutely. All right, Lauren Conlon, this story, first of all, are you surprised that here we are in October and we still don't have answers in this case?
Yes, I am completely surprised. And if it wasn't for Steve, I guess at this point, and I'm not trying to shade the LAPD. I know they're doing everything they can, but if it wasn't for Steve, I would be even more concerned than I am right now. I constantly refresh the Los Angeles Medical Examiner's website to see if they've determined a cause or manner of death for Celeste. They have not. I've also, done some further digging where, their website says toxicology reports do take 4 to 6 months. I'm sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, is it going to be after Christmas before we start to, finally figure out possibly what happened to this poor girl? And, something just that Steve said to piggyback off that, it is concerning to me that so much stuff was left behind in the house that Steve was collecting, as evidence, because he's working for the homeowner. Some of this stuff that Steve and I have talked about offline, it's weird. I'm sorry. It's just strange that the LAPD didn't take this stuff with them when they had their search warrant. And I guess it's kind of like, let's just look at this from the outside again. David, not a suspect, not a person of interest, but he canceled all of his tours. That's a lot of money. He hasn't been seen, right, since he returned home to LA. I mean, that doesn't make sense. If you're not a person of interest at this point, what are you hiding from? I want to put up on the screen a sketch of a timeline here of some of the things that we know. And as Steve pointed out, July 29th, the last time that David's Tesla was moved before being parked on a nearby Bluebird Avenue. August 27th, a parking enforcement officer marked the Tesla, noting the position of its tires. September 3rd, the officer issues a citation to the Tesla for violating the 72-hour parking ordinance. September 5th, the Tesla is impounded and towed to the Hollywood tow yard. September 8th, the body of Celeste Rivas Hernandez is found, in the front trunk after an employee reports a suspicious smell to police. And September 18th, Hollywood Hills home where David had been staying is searched. And I just want to show everyone a map so they kind of get an idea here.
as Steve described, the home is on the 1300 block of North Dehaney, and the Tesla is found within walking distance of there. So you could drop it off and just walk back, and it's no big deal. Let me ask you, Steve, is there any indication of what is the last known proof of life of Celeste?
So the last that I have, and I don't know, what LAPD has, but there was some media left behind at the house, and there's photos from a camera that David was using, and the last photo of Celeste is January 2nd of 2025.
Wow. Now, without revealing what you found, right, because some things you may not be able to reveal, in what you went through in the house, did you find any evidence of criminal behavior?
So, it's not a crime to think about doing certain things, but we found some things that had been delivered to the house that just don't belong there, or don't belong in any type of environment like that. And they are things that you could use to get rid of a person if you wanted to. And they're really, people say, oh, it's got to be tools and stuff. It's beyond that. It's really sadistic stuff. Now, LAPD didn't take it, but they have told us that they photographed it. But again, that's not a crime, just ordering these things,
Right.
But I think it does, show that there was some intent, and,
Yeah, well, right, it's not illegal to have, but if you're putting together a case and it ends up being a homicide case and these things are
Right.
around, that's a piece of the puzzle, the building blocks of any prosecutor's case. Lauren, how would you describe David? If someone has no idea who this guy is, who he is, how he got famous, what he's known for, and what he's like.
Yeah, I mean, David is your typical internet kid. He describes himself that way. He grew up with the internet. He's a gamer. He was a TikTok star. That's essentially how he was discovered as this singer. He went viral, and he has millions of followers on every platform. A huge following on Discord, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. His life is online. And Vinnie, just to add a couple things to the dates that you mentioned before, you said September 18th, that's when the home was searched, the Hollywood Hills home. Well, also around the 17th and 18th, I'm not exactly positive which day it was. I don't want to be called out, but that was also the day that Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body was identified as Celeste. And also, that was the day, or around the day, that David transferred his Houston homes in Texas in his mother's name. And, I kind of smile a little bit, and I didn't really mean to, when you asked Steve, about the evidence he found in the home, because I know that Steve wishes he could share it all with us, but clearly he's being incredibly responsible right now, and he's not trying to step on the LAPD's toes. But it's concerning.
How about Celeste's family, Lauren? What are they saying now? Are they speaking out? Are they frustrated? Are they angry? Or are they just waiting?
So it's interesting, Vinnie, because I have been kind of refreshing their Facebook profiles, the family members that I found. I believe initially when Celeste went missing for the first time back in February of 2024, it was her aunt that posted that she was missing, and her mom had commented on it. And I haven't seen any posts from them that are public since. I did get her brother's number. I actually texted him at one point. I did not get a response there. So I really have no idea. I also think that, there is a language barrier with her mother. At least I know that her mother for sure does not speak English very well. So I think that, that also might be an issue as to why she's not speaking out. But yeah, pretty much silence from her family.
Now, Steve, getting back to your video, and you've provided it to LAPD, correct?
Yeah.
Right, so they have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And from that video, you're able to tell who's driving the car, and you use the term they, so there's more than one person involved in all of this, and obviously none of them or all of them could be involved with what happened to Celeste. We don't know. But are they identifiable from the video?
Yeah, and to be clear, so there's one person driving the car. When I say they, it's because there's images from right before and then after the time frame the car was moved that same day of people at the home and then on the tour bus. So when I say they, I know that they were in a group, but there was only one person that moved the car, and that person is identifiable for sure.
And is LAPD, my guess is they would have wanted to have spoken to all these people. Do we know if they have given statements? Do we know if LAPD has spoken to David and anyone else who may have been in and around the home at that time?
Well, I know that, before she was identified, there was a statement from David's camp saying that he did plan on talking to LAPD when he came back in town because he had a show at the Greek Theater in LA, which was canceled. I hope they've talked to these people, but they're not telling us that. We have not gotten. We've been trying to get a copy of the search warrant with the probable cause affidavit because the owner's entitled to that since David wasn't on the lease. We haven't gotten that yet, and that's not something we could disclose anyways. But I would hope that they're talking to. There was a core group of people that were around a lot and all the time. And I'll tell you what, Celeste is not one of those people that it's in this house in these photos. There's people are showing some photos of an old house from before, but there was another place that appears to be in East Hollywood or downtown that I believe she was staying at, more of like an apartment. And so I think that hopefully they get to the bottom of that and figure out, because I think she was living with somebody as well too. She was not at this house 24/7.
And how far back do the videos go? I mean, are there videos before that date on July 29th, and do they reveal anything?
They go from December of 24 up until I forget the exact date, but it's about I think it's like April or May that they go to.
All right, Steve Fisher.
So go ahead. There is back in 24. Yeah. She does appear on some images in December 24 as well, but the last one is January 25.
January. All right, Lauren Conlon, great to have you on. Thank you so much. Steve Fisher, great to see you. Appreciate you sharing all this information with us and with our audience. And I'm sure we'll speak again as this investigation continues. When we come back, we're going to bring in our think tank. They're locked and loaded. Yes, it's ladies' night on Closing Arguments. We're going to talk about the developments in the Kada Scott investigation. Big news there, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates 4 promising lives cut short in one of America's most chilling college town murders. But new revelations about Kaylee's injuries raise haunting questions about who the killer targeted and why. Could her wounds reveal the key to his motive? Tonight, we investigate.
I've committed so many horrific acts over and over and over.
Do you think you deserve to die for murdering those innocent people?
You tell me. I wish more than anything, David, that I would have done something other than the things I've done in my life.
Are you really a changed man, or is this some kind of stunt?
Interview with a Killer. 2-hour season premiere. Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
Our office, as of the early morning hours into the early morning hours this morning, did charge this individual with charges, the lead charge being kidnapping. As we've said multiple times at this point, we do not know where Miss Scott is. So at this point, our lead charge is kidnapping. He did have a previous case. It was a 2025 case for very similar conduct, strangulation and kidnapping. That case had been withdrawn by our office based on the witness failing to appear at court. I pulled that file, and after an extensive review of it, our office made the decision to refile those charges. We believe there is enough to proceed, and we also do believe that this is a pattern for this person.
It's a pattern because you dropped the charges the first time, right? Like, come on. Come on, Philly DA. So Keon King was first charged with kidnapping. They couldn't find Kada Scott. They found Kada Scott. Now take a look at what CBS News in Philly is reporting tonight. Kada Scott, the woman found dead at an abandoned Philadelphia school after being reported missing, was killed by a gunshot wound to her head. A spokesperson for the city medical examiner's office confirmed on Thursday. The news comes a day after the office ruled the cause of death a homicide, leading to murder charges against Keon King, who was already charged with burning a vehicle that authorities say was used to transport Kada Scott's body. A lot of developments in this case. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us, former sex crimes prosecutor for more than 3 decades, Stacey Hanowitz, attorney Ali Benevento, along with criminal defense attorney Sidney Rushing. Great to see everyone tonight. Okay, gunshot wound to the head. I'm a little bit surprised by that, Stacey. I thought this was going to be like a strangulation kind of situation. What does this tell you about the killer?
Well, first of all, I saw Larry Krasner do his press conference mea culpa yesterday. If anybody didn't see it, he had to come out because the pushback on this case, because this guy was out of custody, has been out of control. So am I shocked by what we're finding now? No. He had a previous case with kidnapping involving women, and I think there was strangulation before. He just chose a different method this time. But I think the Philly DA's office is under a lot of pressure now for just what you said. Dismissing those charges after the first time that this witness did not come to court. Highly unusual.
Yeah, highly unusual, especially, Ali, when you had a video of the crime.
Well, I mean, it makes it really difficult. I can't believe I'm coming to the defense of the DA right now, but it makes it very difficult to prosecute those types of cases when you don't have a cooperating witness. But I certainly understand now they're bringing that back. If they have the video evidence, they think they can prove it, then so be it. But, you know, it's very difficult for them to bring those cases when they don't have anyone to pursue them in the first place. And so it sounds like that's what happened.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, the consequences, like everyone said, have been tragic.
Yeah, when I was a prosecutor, though, we had these things. What did we call them? It starts with an S. What's the word? Oh, a subpoena.
Subpoena?
I would serve a subpoena on the witnesses so they would show up. Then if they didn't show up the first time and they were crucial, we would send someone to go get them. That's how it works. It's like 101 prosecuting if you're a prosecutor, as opposed to being a criminal defense attorney pretending to be a prosecutor, which is what's happening in Philadelphia. Now, take a look at this new detail, Sidney. Video evidence suggesting that 2 people may have been involved in moving and burying the body of Kada Scott. Video footage from the area where Scott's body was found showed 2 people get out of a vehicle around 11:30 p.m. the night after she disappeared. Around 4 a.m., they are shown removing a heavy object consistent with a human body out of the passenger side of the car and then carrying it in the general direction where her body was recovered. So how much they got to lean on this other person. They got to find out who they are and lean on them, right? They're going to get a lot of information from this person.
Yeah, definitely, because as you know, seeing those things, it is circumstantial. So without having that person to say they were either involved and appointing it to Mr. King, shooting her and helping him move the body, they're going to have some issues. And like you were saying about, you know, his prior case being dismissed, if they don't have the person there to testify and say that he did these things, they were against my will, you know, they can't go forward. It's really hard, even with the video, because the video, they have to have a foundational, you know, layout to get it in. I have a DV docket that I'm on every day, and we see it. It's very common that they can't proceed without, you know, the complaining witness showing forward. And when you have the officers bring that witness in, you're kind of re-victimizing them, right? You're terrorizing them again, because they don't want to come in and you're forcing them to.
Stacey, you're shaking your head.
You know, the unfortunate thing is you run into a situation like this. You know, when I was a prosecutor for all those years, you know, we had horrible, horrific cases where a witness said, I don't want to come to court. I just can't do it. Maybe the first time. And you went to the judge and you said, listen, you've got to reset this. I need to read the probable cause affidavit. See how horrific it is. You can't just let him go on this when the witness doesn't show up the first time. So yes, there are other ways of getting cases. It is difficult, I agree with you, when the complaining witness doesn't come, but there is other evidence that can be provided. And certainly, I think in this case, why Krasner's coming out now is because he realized that this first time around, it shouldn't have been dismissed. It should have been reset to try to get in touch with this victim, because now we're with a situation, just like if you let somebody out on bond when the witness doesn't show up, where something like this takes place. So, you know, it's like a double-edged sword, but certainly for him to have a whole press conference on it yesterday, you know the kind of heat that's going on now in Philadelphia because of this.
Okay, now I've got another detail here. I've got another detail that I don't understand it. There's apparently communications that they've uncovered. Police obtained text messages between Kada Scott and a person they believe was Keon King over the week before Scott disappeared, saying King identified himself as Kel. At about 10 a.m. the morning Scott disappeared, she texted that number to say, "Kidnap me again." Okay, so this is Kada Scott texting the number saying, "Kidnap me again." Kel responded, "Better be up to." One of Scott's co-workers reported seeing her upset outside their workplace at about 10 p.m. on the 4th. The co-worker reportedly heard Scott say, "I can't believe you're calling me," before she walked toward a parked SUV. Any idea, Allie, what's going on here with this "kidnap me again" text message coming from the victim?
No, and unfortunately, we're pulling all of these messages out of context. I don't know what the relationship was between the two of these. Is that something playful? Is it something sexual? I don't know what that is. Or is she making a threat without a context and without knowing what the dynamic was between the two of these beforehand? I'm not sure quite what to make of that. Of course, after the fact, after she was in fact kidnapped and apparently murdered, it certainly reads in a sinister way. But again, it's being plucked out of its context. Really difficult to know what to make of that.
To me, this kind of goes towards the relationship. How important is figuring out what, if any, prior relationship there was here, Sydney?
I think that's going to be very important, and definitely in relation to this text message, right? Because it is threatening in nature, like "kidnap me again," like let's see what happens, or is it, "Hey, I want to get out of my shift, kidnap me again," you know? So I think the relationship between the parties is going to be very important when trying to decipher how these text messages were taken and said.
Yeah, Stacey, any insight into this and what it means in trying to tell the story as to what happened here and why it happened?
Well, I mean, why it happened really isn't going to be important in the long run. People don't care why it happened. It's just the fact that it did happen. So while you want to bring the relationship into it, certainly these text messages, or you want to find out how she knew him, you ask coworkers, you ask friends, did she know this guy? In the long run, in a murder prosecution, the fact that she was found dead, it's not going to make a difference whether or not they liked each other and had some kind of relationship.
All right. Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, Verdict Watch continues. For the firefighter from Ireland, came to Boston for St. Paddy's Day and then was accused of rape. The jury did not reach a verdict today. What is going on in Boston?
There are only two people who could know what happened, and you heard from both of them. Everyone else that was called to testify in this case was not in that room and did not directly see or hear anything about what did or did not happen in that room. Whom I suggest is a less than reliable reporter, given her intoxication, her memory lapses, and other provably false recollections, gave you her version of events. And Mr. Crosby got up on that stand, something he was not required to do, and under oath told you he did not do what he's being accused of.
Okay, so the defense trying to break this down into a he said, she said situation, but there is some other evidence. I mean, the accuser had DNA from two male individuals in her private region. She was in one hotel room with two men, only two men. And you have that plus what each one testified to on the stand. So let me refresh your recollection about what he said and what she said.
I woke up to somebody on top of me, inside of me, in his penis in my vagina, on top of me, telling me, you like this, he couldn't give this to you, I'll give it to you, he's a loser.
Did you know who that person was?
Not at the time, no. But I knew it wasn't Liam because Liam was still asleep in the bed next to me.
Did you notice anything about the person's voice when he said those things to you?
There was also an accent, an Irish accent. It took me a few seconds to really wake up and realize what was happening. I heard him say what he had said. I said, what are you doing? Stop. I tried to push him off of me. I was not successful for maybe a few minutes. I then eventually was able to maneuver my way out of the bed. I fortunately was on the side of the bed, so I was able to get my feet on the ground and roll out of the bed. So because my clothes were on the other side of the room, I had to collect them. As I was collecting them, he continued to follow me around, trying to kiss me, had pushed me up against the wall. Fortunately, I was able to collect my belongings while continuing to move towards the door. I eventually was able to get into the bathroom, where I was able to get dressed. I knew that he was still at the door because he had jiggled the door. I took a moment to make a plan of escape to safety. And like is shown in the photos, when you're in the bathroom, if you turn to the left, the door's pretty close. So, once I had my clothes on, I was able to exit the bathroom and exit the room.
What time did you arrive at the Omni Parker house?
Close to midnight. It was 11:50.
What did you do when you got there?
Just went up to the 6th floor and went to my room.
And did you go in the room?
Yes.
And what did you do in the room when you got there?
I was intending on going to bed, but the radiator at the back of the room was like making a noise. I was trying to figure out how to fix it. It wasn't working. The door of the room opened there behind me then shortly thereafter.
So who opened the door to the room, if you know?
Liam returned to the room with the woman that he had met at the bar.
Okay. And did Mr. O'Brien say anything to you at that point?
No, I kind of read between the lines. I more or less immediately left.
Okay, so where did you go?
I left the room and went around to sit in an armchair close to the lift on the 6th floor.
And when you say lift, you mean elevator, right?
Yeah.
Is that a word that you would use in Ireland that we might not use here?
When I say lift, I mean elevator, yes.
Okay. How long were you there outside the elevators?
I'd say 2 hours, thereabouts.
Well, after sitting in that hallway for 2 hours to give Mr. O'Brien some privacy, what did you do next?
I went back around to the room to 610 and I knocked on the door.
Did anyone respond after you knocked?
No, nobody responded. I knocked a few times.
Did you eventually open the door?
Yes, I opened the door and I called in. I didn't go straight into the room.
So were you still in the hallway or in the doorway? Were you in the room?
It was kind of 50-50. I didn't have the door open all the way. I had my foot in the door. I called in, no answer. I called in again, louder, still no answer.
So did you do anything after calling in and knocking after you'd opened the door?
There was no reply, so the room was too dark, so I took my phone out of my pocket. I turned my torch on the back of the phone just to light up my walkway to my bed. And I got to the side of my bed close to the bathroom door and got into bed.
Did you see or hear Mr. O'Brien when you entered the room?
No.
And again, please remind the jury which bed was yours?
The fourth bed on the right, the one closest to the bathroom.
Could you tell if your suitcase was there where you'd left it next to the bed?
It was still there, yes.
Was your bed still made?
It was as I had left it earlier, yes.
Was anyone in your bed?
There was nobody in my bed. She was walking around the room, gathering her clothes and rummaging, looking for her belongings.
Did you look at her?
They were out. I couldn't, but I didn't try anyway.
Did you touch her?
I didn't.
Did you have any physical contact with her?
I didn't.
All right. He's saying no contact whatsoever. So he's not saying consensual here. Not saying consensual. Sydney, where did the other DNA come from? And why hasn't the jury come to a decision? It's been 10 hours.
It's been 10 hours, Vinny. And the thing is, there was two contributors to that DNA. Neither of them could be contributed back to him. So that's where you're having the issue with the jury right now, is because we have DNA evidence, and neither of those two DNA evidences contributors that they found could be linked back to him. That's where this issue is coming in with this jury. You know, this is a retrial. The first trial that this was a mistrial. It was a deadlock jury. And it kind of looks like we may be heading there again as we go into day 3 of deliberations tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they're having a hard time, Vinny.
I heard,
like Sydney said, this is the second time around. Go ahead, Stacey.
No, Allie, go. Talk. Ahead.
No, this is the second time around. And, we have cases when we're lucky enough in a sexual assault case to have DNA evidence. You hope that it either excludes or includes the person, that is in question. That's not the case here. So I think they're probably struggling with that. They're struggling with the fact that, there was evidence presented that this alleged victim was incredibly intoxicated. So this is a complicated situation of conflicting testimony. And I think they're probably back there struggling. At least that's the impression I get.
Definitely.
Yeah, the prosecutor, I thought, gave a very good closing argument. I didn't see the defense, so I don't want to say anything. But what she was talking about, and I do agree with the other ladies, that when there's DNA and it's found in the vaginal area, and you can't link it back, juries have a very difficult time. The flip side to that is there's a lot of things that this prosecutor was able to poke holes in. For instance, when he took the stand, he asked specifically to the police officer, without them even telling them what had happened in the room, is she saying that somebody pinned her down on the bed and penetrated her? So the prosecutor was trying to bring out, that's a fact that why would he even say something like that without knowing? She also brought out the fact that he tried to explain why maybe there might be DNA. And a trigger warning for the audience, he talked about that he had masturbated that morning in the room, and that's why some DNA would have been there. P.S. He was in Ireland that morning. So there were different things that just didn't match up with what he had to say. The other thing was a lot of the things that this victim said, although she was intoxicated the night before, when she got up in the morning, she was not intoxicated. She knew what was going on. And what is the purpose of her making up that this man had raped her? Could it have been that she was afraid of saying she had consensual sex with the other guy? Well, that's the guy that she might want to accuse of rape if she's embarrassed by the consent. But what is her reason for saying that this man, who she had no contact with before, why would she be accusing him? And she was able to tell these details. So I think that's the holdup. They're hanging their hat on the DNA, which the defense probably pushed, no DNA. And the prosecutor saying, wait a second, there's other things that would lead you to believe that he did rape her that night. So I think that's the conflict.
Yeah, but let me zoom in on this DNA, because there was a time that there wasn't DNA and you could prove a rape case, okay? So that can happen. It's not a requirement. It's great evidence. But to me, it's a math equation, okay? There's 3 people in the room. There's 2 male donors of DNA on her. They can't identify either one definitively who it comes from, but they know it's male DNA. Nobody else enters the room. Why is this so complicated, Allie?
Well, how do we know that whatever happened to cause the male DNA to be on her body happened in that room? What happened earlier in the night? If she was really intoxicated, if I'm the defense attorney, I'm pointing to the fact that this girl might not know what the heck happened earlier that night. And perhaps the reason why she's saying that this gentleman in particular sexually assaulted her is she remembers him being there. Perhaps she's embarrassed about another consensual or, questionable sexual encounter with someone else. And now I'm not saying saying that any of that's the case, but, you know, I don't think it's as clear cut as you're making it sound, because we can't say that for sure that DNA got to her just within the confines of that room during that time period. We don't know that.
I completely agree too, because again,
Look,
remember, Vinny, as you know, and Vinny and Stacey, like you guys know, beyond a reasonable doubt is such a high burden. So I'm grateful to see that this jury is taking this very serious, right? They're taking their time. They're going through everything so they can see whether or not they can reach that. But again, remember with this case, it's the same case that was heard once by a jury and it was deadlocked. And this is the same. And just like Ali said, what did she do earlier in the night? Did she come to the conclusion that people saw different things and now, you know, she's like, oh no, I don't want to look this way or what have you? I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened either, right? But there's a lot more to this. It's not as clear cut as I think that, you know, it's being made. And the DNA, as much as like, you know, there are other things. This one, we do have DNA, and it's not being linked. It can't be linked back to him. He can't be ruled in.
The samples are too small. They
you know, I
can't.
think that really hurts the
The
case.
samples are too small. They can't get back.
That's what it was.
Yeah, but it's not like it excludes him. It's not excluding him.
But they're not finding her credible enough to look past that. Like you were saying in your point earlier, there are plenty of sexual assault cases where we have no DNA at all. And it's a matter of the battle of whose testimony is more credible. And
But
the fact
who
of the matter
lies
is this jury
about
is struggling
pleasuring
right now, which
themselves
means
in
they're
their
not
bed? Who lies about pleasuring themselves in their
that's
bed?
The thing. There were so many holes in his.
We're out of time. We're out of
They have
time.
the videotape of him coming.
We're
in.
out of time. We're going to have to continue to deliberate next week. Stacey Honowitz, Ali Benevento, Sydney Rushing, thank you so much. When we come back, something else you need to know. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, he studied crime, then committed one of the worst. Now, life behind bars begins for the convicted mass murderer in the Idaho 4 case. What is life like, and what about the grievances he has filed while in prison? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
An Amber Alert triggered by a deadly shooting and 2 girls taken by their father.
But did Dustin Durin shoot the mother of his children in self-defense?
The Amber Alert murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. What do we have for you? New updates in the case of missing 9-year-old Melody Buzzard. The sheriff's office released a timeline. Now, she's been missing and unaccounted for since October 7th, it looks like. A verified sighting of Melody and Ashley, her mother, beginning of a road trip to Nebraska, and that's from California, Santa Barbara County, where Ashley returned to Lompoc without Melody. So mom takes this wild ride from Santa Barbara County, California to Nebraska, returns. 9-year-old girl is no longer with her. We've also got some interesting information from the Daily Mail. In a bizarre sequence of events, Ashley Buzzard was seen repeatedly attempting to rent a car in Santa Maria, a town 20 miles from her modest 3-bedroom home in Lompoc, California. Buzzard, who's being pursued by the courts over a string of unpaid credit card debts, was denied a rental at both and eventually returned home. Then, adding to her troubles, a neighbor told the Daily Mail that Buzzard was handed a notice on Monday giving her 72 hours to produce Melody. So we'll stay on top of that story. Plus, we have another missing child. Take a look, folks. This is Carnila Hightower, 16, missing out of Cincinnati, Ohio. 911, 1-800 The Lost, or call the Cincinnati Police Department in Ohio. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.